But I would like to hear from you, Trish, since you founded the Climate Desk, and how you think what the future holds for climate journalism.
It's very bright, very bright. I joined the climate team, or I joined the Washington Post in August of 2018. I had been running international investigations for the Associated Press. I was the terrorism editor at the Associated Press. I did all of ISIS, all 3 years. And I decided I needed a break. So I joined the Washington Post. There were 5 reporters and me. We were the climate team. We mostly covered Washington, D.C., federal agencies. We covered, of course, the UN, all the COPs. And we covered, we had 1 science writer. And so our very first year, so we pulled together like a team in the national desk of the Washington Post. And in our first year, we were told or asked to do something very ambitious on climate change. And we were like, okay. And that was it. That's all we got. So working with my colleague, John Meiskens, who was not on the climate team, he's part of our graphics, data viz team. We figured out a way, he figured out a way. Did you guys find my link? By any chance? To look at these vast global data sets of temperature, going all the way back to, well, I think if you've read 2C Beyond the Limit, we have done like 14 we did 14 stories all about temperature rise, and we were able to look at how the world has warmed by, on an average of 1 degree Celsius, like we mapped the planet. And because temperature rise is, there we go, here we go. Mm-hmm. And because temperature rise, this is just the United States, but there's another link to the whole planet. If you look for the first story, no, the second story, this one, dangerous new hot zones are spreading around the world. That's the global one, right? That would be great if we could switch to that if possible. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. This is data, right? This is what we're talking about. This is why the preceding panel was perfect, because you cannot do climate journalism without data. You cannot do it without graphics. You can't do it without data viz. I mean, if you're all by yourself trying to do data journalism, right? I'm trying to do climate journalism right now with no data or graphics support, then you get to fight the fight that I had to fight at the Washington Post for the last 3.5 years. It's not possible. It's just not. But anyway, we were able to map the whole planet, and then whenever we saw these, wherever you saw that it was already at 2C or above, because global warming is not uniform around the planet, then we sat around and we were like, well, who wants to go to Tanzania? Or Tasmania, actually it was Tasmania. Who wants to go to Russia? Who wants to go to Alaska? We just picked 10 to 14 spots around the planet, and we sent our team, and then we wrote all those stories that you see at the top, and we won a Pulitzer Prize. Yay. And the reason why this is important is, of course, it's great to win, but this was great because it persuaded my own newspaper. Come on, this is hot. This is the thing that we have to be writing about now. This is now. And I never want to read another story about the future, the 2100, even 30-30 or 50-50 kind of drives me crazy, because what is going on with greenhouse gas emissions? They're going up, and they still are today, right now. So it's just kind of infuriating, but whatever. Anyway, so after we did this, we became very popular at the Washington Post, and then we started to grow. We added more reporters every single year. And in the past, and then this year, the climate team grew into a department of its own and has a new head and is going to grow to more than 30 people. And at this point, I know John Meiskens wants to say something very important to everybody here about hiring.
Well, we will have some positions opening soon, including positions for people who do graphics. So if you are interested in doing this kind of work, or know someone who's interested in doing this kind of work, come talk to me. You're based in Europe.
I'm sorry?
I said they're based in Europe.
The climate team is growing. We're adding international climate correspondents. We're trying to put climate correspondents all over this country. We're adding more data people, video, It's really, plus we started with 5 and we're going to be at more than 30. So that's a win. And the reason I think that we're successful is because A, we were asked to be ambitious. We were told, you must be ambitious and you can have whatever you want. I had just come to the Washington Post and I thought, wow, this is a great paper. They give you anything I want. Who knew? And then the other thing was that we stopped writing about futures. We stopped writing about what was going to happen. And we decided to write about what is happening and what is not happening right now. And that was a big deal to make that change. And then third, because I come from international news, and international news is a very hard sell to the American public, right? They don't really like, I hope I'm not insulting anybody here, but it's really hard to sell international news to the average American reader. And environmental journalism is also very difficult to sell because it's really, as you guys know how hard it is to do our jobs. It can be very dense. We can all fall asleep. A lot of us write in environmentalese, and it's a turnoff when you can watch cat videos, or TikTok, right? We can't force anybody to read these stories. We can't force them. So we have to make them really great and beautiful. And one way to do that, of course, the only really way to ever make journalism great is to have human beings there. We have to have real people in them. They cannot live in Washington, D.C. And the planet is fantastic. So if you deploy to these whether it's to a hotspot or wherever in the world that you want to tell your story is going to be so much better because you left your house, right? I mean, that's like the secret of journalism at the Associated Press anyway, to always deploy. So that's basically how we did it. And then the last thing I wanted to tell you is this whole notion of hope and wonder and the beauty of our planet. Those are our tools, right? If we can lean in to the fantastic planet with all of its environmental beauties to make our journalism sing, right? Because it is beautiful. It's fantastic, right? And so one of my favorite stories from last year by Juliet Alperin, who is currently now the deputy department head of the climate team, was a story about a tree. And it was a story about a tree in Alaska. And it's in an old growth forest. And I think the headline was something like, should this tree be sold for $17,500? And it was 18 stories tall and 500 years old. She actually got somebody to do a borehole into this huge tree to figure out exactly what its age was. And that's, of course, more data. So I think there's plenty here that we can talk about in terms of how to take what we learned in the last 2 days and turn it into journalism.